Hey, Jeff,
Hey guys, it's hump day, Chad.
I got to make an announcement real quick. Dr. Coyce, don't go anywhere. You're live on this screen. We can see you loud and clear. Everything's perfect. So sit tight. So we're good.
Beautiful. As always,
Everything worked out.
we come
It's
through.
perfect. Yes.
Yeah.
So, anyways,
Welcome to
we're
Hump
here.
Day Happy Hour with Dennis in the Know. This is your backstage look at current trends, politics, and education, all in the dental world, live and over a cocktail. Cheers, my friend.
Hey, cheers. Jeff, I tell you, man, it's like no other, dude. Did we not have like kind of the worst time ever trying to get this episode started tonight? But you know what? I'm sitting here and I know you can't see it. We finally got Dr. Coyce, who just
Beautiful.
there he is, he's back. We got Dr. Coyce waiting in the wings. We got Dr. Bassett waiting in the wings. Now the question is whether Dr. Bassett can hear us or not, but I can see Dr. Bassett. We've got someone else who's ready to come on screen. A little JB action here.
JB. So let me introduce everybody. I'm Jeff Horowitz, and with me, of course, is Chad Duplantis and the lovely Jennifer Bell, and we are Dennis in the Know. So anything exciting happen, you guys, this week?
Can
JB,
I have
you
a
go.
humble brag? Can I get a humble brag?
Of course
A
you
humble
can.
brag is fine.
Okay, we'll see when I get to work tomorrow, made my first custom tray on my 3D printer. So I just,
Ooh.
ooh.
I'm
But
impressed.
we'll see what it looks like when I get there. It takes like 4.5 hours. So I may get there tomorrow and it looks like crap, but
On a sadder note, I did my first regenerative surgery around an implant last week. Spent a god-awful amount of time on this procedure. And gentleman went home and showed up at the office on Monday morning, having decided that he didn't like his sutures very much. So he proceeded to take them out himself. And so that's how I got to my office on Tuesday morning, was basically having to redo a surgery next to an entire schedule of patients. So if you were wondering why I couldn't be found on Tuesday, that was the reason. So my news isn't as good as yours this week.
No.
It's a little bit of a down week for me.
wow, way to go, Jeff. Way to crush it.
Yeah, sorry. Chad, give us something good.
I don't know if I have anything good, but I
We
think
always
I
look to
got
you for
asked.
inspiration.
Mhm.
I wish I had more inspiration, but I will let you all in on something, that just cracks me up because it happened twice today. But, I'm looking around for one. I don't have one right here, but you have a patient that comes in and they've got their mask on, and, you're ready to get to work. And the patient looks at you and says, "Do you want me to remove this?" And you just kind of sit there and you're like, you know what? Actually, let me rev up the drill. I'm just going to go right through the thing. We're good.
Yeah,
We're good.
just make an access. Oh, I gotta say this. So I had a patient that came in today. I have never been so impressed with an endodontic access through a crown. This patient came in, had been to Walter Reed. She was military, went to Walter Reed and had an endo access. Literally, this thing could not have been 3 millimeters across. I said, he must have had the most incredible microscope ever.
Yeah.
It was the tiniest access I have ever seen. Unbelievable. I was like, please call this guy and say, I am entirely impressed.
It's funny that you say that because I do have a really cool story today. And I'm going to share this week on DINKs. But, every day I'm amazed by what cone beam technology can do for you. So a patient comes in, she's got pain, and she knows as of this week, she's isolated it. She's like, it's number 14. I've got 3 PAs within the past couple months. Nothing. Said, you know what? I'm going to take a localized cone beam today. And I mean, the lesion on the mesiofacial root and the palatal root that's connected is just amazing in 3D. but in 2D, you can't see
You
anything.
can't even see
And
it.
it just goes to show you how powerful that technology is in our practices. And it's like, you know, why didn't I take it, you know, when she came in a few weeks ago? I don't know. I mean, we saw something else on the radiographs and didn't really see anything. But when she isolated it, I'm like, all right, let's take a closer look at this. And it just, boom, just slaps you right in the face. Just
Yeah.
an amazing piece of technology.
It's really why, Chad, I've gone to, you know, that is my new patient protocol, and you know, that's what we talk about a lot. I really think that will become the standard of care. It's you just cannot fully diagnose without that technology. So
I would agree. And it's, you know, we talked about this, last Friday during that webinar, Jeff, and I already believe it is the standard of care, at least in implant therapy and in endodontics.
for sure.
I think it's becoming that way too. So, you
All
know,
right.
enough about us, because everybody sees us every week.
We have a show that you would not believe today. Well, maybe you would believe it because I've worked with you on putting this together.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
super exciting. Okay. But first, who do you want to introduce first? What do you want to do?
Well,
I'll let you run
do this. Let me put the lay of the land here and say that today we have an absolutely incredible program. As usual, of course, you see Dr. Jennifer Bell within the news. And we're also very excited to have the man that I consider to be my mentor and my inspiration in dentistry. And I know there's a lot of other dentists out there that feel this way, but we are very, very honored to have Dr. John Joyce with us. The other thing that we're going to do is let you get to know more of the Catapult Education team through a toast. And Chad, I think we have another guest that I think Dr. John Joyce will be happy to see as well. So would you like to introduce our DINK?
Yes, I will. And I don't know that she can hear me because she's having a little bit of technical issues, not with sight, but with sound. So if we have any issues with sound, I'm going to call Joyce. But I just want Dr. Joyce, if you can hear us, we can see you. So you're perfect. Our first guest is a very dear friend of mine and of Jeff's, and she's kind of everybody's big sister, confidant. I'll never forget, you know, something that happened last year. She pulled me to the side out of concern for me, and I think it was just me having a crappy day, but I just love this lady. She's fantastic. It's Dr. Joyce Bassett. She practices aesthetic and restorative dentistry in Scottsdale, Arizona. She's an accredited fellow in the American Academy of Cosmetic Dentistry. She was the president from 2015 to 16. She is a Joyce clinical constructor and active member in the Academy of Fixed Prosthodontists, and also a fellow in the AGD. I just want to throw all that to the side and tell you that this lady is an incredible dentist. She's an incredible lecturer. She probably talks faster than anybody that I've ever met in my life, but her work is incredibly beautiful. So Joyce.
And she has a heart of gold.
She does have a heart of gold. So what I'm going to do is Joyce says she can't hear us. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to call Joyce so that she can hear us. And I'm going to have her mute her phone so that she can hear us, but then we'll be able to hear her on here. So there we go.
Oh, this is like on a daytime show where they actually call someone in the audience.
Yes.
You won $1 million?
Can you hear us, Joyce?
Italy.
Okay, cool. So
okay, so if I put it on mute, can you hear me through this?
We can hear you perfectly through that. Yes.
And we'll go from there.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? We just call this improvisation, and that's fine, and we'll make it work. So, Joyce, what are you drinking tonight, or are you drinking? Is it early? There you go. She's drinking.
Hi, Joyce.
Smiles
Joyce
by
Bassett
Joyce
water.
My favorite. You know it's in there now too. You.
No, it could be something else. We'll just all have to imagine.
Yeah.
How are you,
So
Joyce? It's always so good to see you.
Thank you for
Yeah,
having me. I have a
absolutely.
brand new white light, and it came in, and we opened the box. It's all broken. So I had a light coming at me for here. So this is the best
Nice.
light I have. Is that okay?
Mhm.
That's good enough. It's a
well,
little darker than you guys. I could
it
probably
looks
live in
it looks it looks fine. If you guys have not been to Joyce's website, go to Joyce's website because her practice is absolutely freaking beautiful. Um, Joyce, tell us a little bit about what you're lecturing on these days, or what you're doing these days.
a lot of digital design, scanning. I finally got a scanner. Took
Hey,
me a while.
Joyce, can you
Yes,
get a little closer to the mic if you would?
Okay.
there you go.
Is that
Perfect. That's
better?
better.
Okay.
Yep.
Better
I
yet.
got a scanner. So I've been
About
Woohoo.
time.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I know because I've gone to all the KOL meetings. I've learned how to do the scanners. I never implemented the scanning technology, and I love it. I think it's amazing. Right now,
It is
people are
incredible.
scanning, and I'm in here drinking my Smiles by Joyce water.
I,
I'm working a lot with digital design, but I do the digital design for the temporary, so composite prototypes. Really, that's my favorite thing, is to teach people how to really look at that. And that's what my last article was on. So that's how I'm starting Smile design, digital design, and then scanning technology.
Awesome.
Of
And
course,
Joyce,
I have a 3 hours. I'm doing composite, posterior, bulk fill, just like everybody else.
yeah.
After I do the veneers and the design.
And Joyce, do you have
How to go
anything,
from a
any,
hybrid practice to a more digital practice.
yeah.
So that's what
And
and I'm the last person that picked it up, which is kind of good. All the pieces of it, which is good. I think it's good because a lot of people are like me. It took them a while. So you helped me, Chad. You made me do it.
well, I'm glad you did. When you talk about digital design, what service? I mean, what are you using as a design service? Are you using a private lab, or using
Yes.
like DSD? What are you
I do
using?
outsource it with the lab microdental right now. It's microdental, but then also Lafayette local, and most of them are in 3Shape technology. They're using the 3Shape software, but I do it with them, so they
Okay.
can start it, and I make them screenshots. So I also use the design for the when I'm making the surgical templates for the surgeon, and they know how to do everything, but I make them take screenshots along the way. So if I'm doing a 7 and a 10, I have a screenshot with the numbers on it. So when I have my consultation with my patient, they can see the spaces 7.4 here, 6.8 there. Do I want bonding? How perfect do you want it? So I utilize the technology and the screenshots in my treatment planning. And that's where I'm at right now. I know you can't see I'm facing this, but this is my big Mac room with my 2 screens. I guess I could take my computer and move it a little. And then these are my screens. See? And then I put them on those
that's
screens.
awesome.
Got it? And this is my
Very
office.
cool.
That
And so then they sit next to me. And even though I outsource it, because I know you guys don't have to outsource it, it doesn't matter as long as you have the screenshots and the knowledge and you guide the case. That's all that matters. The patients really want to know on these front aesthetic cases. I believe that.
And you can report on traffic on the 10.
Everything.
yeah, yeah. So Joyce, that is an incredible, and you and I have talked about this before. We're both big believers in patients being visual learners and sharing as much imagery with him as you possibly can. But I think it's just fantastic what you're doing.
Finally, I'm catching up a little bit, guys.
Yeah. Hey, Joyce, do
Yeah.
you have any lectures coming up?
Chapters of all of the technology.
Yeah. Joyce, do you have any lectures coming up?
Yeah, I have 2. Okay, this week I have a lecture, a webinar for 3 hours. Next week I have a webinar, and then I have a live lecture in Arizona at the dental school with the students and the teachers on Friday. I have like 4 hours live. I fly to Manchester as for a live webinar in October 30th, and then November 15th I fly for a live webinar in Canton, Ohio. Then I want to say I have 5 more webinars, so 2 live and 5 or 6 more webinars, and some of them are 3 hours, some of them are 4 hours, some are 1 hour, because I love teaching and I love sharing this knowledge. with what I'm doing and how I'm doing it, how to implement everything, so that they don't have
That's
to.
why we
Well,
love being around you.
Mhm.
what I want to ask you to do is, Joyce, would you do us a favor, and maybe tomorrow, if you have any webinars that people can register for, would you post that in the comments tomorrow from this thread?
Yes, I will, because they can. And then
All right.
right now, micro dental is next Thursday in a week, and it's free.
Okay.
It's complimentary. I sent it to
Mhm.
Catapult site when I did the Instagram post, but I'll send it to here too.
Listen,
Please do.
we're all learning how to do this, Joyce. So just just take any of these that you can and post wherever you can. But if people miss you, they really are missing something. So
If nothing else, we
Hey.
have
Yes.
fun. We all have fun. All of us have
we
fun.
always have fun. So you know who our guest is tonight, or who our very special guest. Yeah, this is why I wanted you to be the drink dink tonight, is because we're getting the band back together.
I know, thank you. Thank you for your patience, because I still had people in the operatories that I had to finish up on. So thank you for your patience.
Oh no, you were great, Joyce. But do you wanna hang on and say a quick hello to Dr. Coyce? We're gonna bring him. I'm gonna introduce him in just a minute. And
Where you guys want me to go away, or do you want me to stay?
well, we can only have 4 on the screen at a time. So what we're gonna do?
No. Jeff, why don't I let you introduce Dr. Coyce with you three? I'll
Okay.
step out for just a second, and then I'll come back on and then be the outsider looking in. How's that?
You mean me and these 2 ladies?
Tell me.
Yeah, I'll give Joyce the boot in a minute.
Okay.
So there you go. All right.
Well,
I'll go off.
Well, that
All right.
sounds
Hang tight,
great.
Joyce.
Guys.
All right. I'm excited, guys. We're getting the band back together.
So good. Red, yellow,
Yeah.
green. Let's do it.
How badly do you miss like just being out at the center with everybody? And the one thing about the Koi Center that most people don't know is that it is so much more than a place to learn. It's really a place where everybody checks their ego at the door, and we can all just be people who are trying to figure the next step out. And I cannot tell you how much I miss it out there. And some of my closest friends, 2 of which are on the screen right here with me, that I've made in dentistry, have been made either through the Koi Center or are part of the Koi Center. And it's something that John likes to term the tribe. And I really do feel like you people are part of a tribe, part of something very special. So without further,
how often do you find yourself quoting something you learned in his class, or I find myself referring to books that he's referenced, or stories he's told, or things I've learned from my colleagues.
The myth of anterior guidance is in every intellectual conversation I try to have about occlusion.
Well, and I even used, in my first course there, he was probably showing Sway, the book, and I hadn't read it at the time, but it really fundamentally changed the way I thought. And I use it now, both in dentistry, but I use it all the time just in common conversation when things seem like they're being pushed by something other than logic. And I think of him quite often, actually.
Yeah. And the one quote that I will use of his all the time and always give him credit for when I'm lecturing is, this is one of my favorite things I've ever heard. It's okay to disagree. It's not okay to be disagreeable, which I think the United States saw last night.
We could learn a lot from that, right?
Yeah. But we're not going to go there at all.
No.
So without further ado, I want to introduce a man who, as I said, I consider him to be the person that changed more about my practice, myself, and my outlook on dentistry, about what excellence is, about what comprehensive care is. And I don't know if we're able to make a man blush, but I hope we do, because I think he very much realizes the impact that he's had on so many dentist careers. And for me, you know, it's an emotional thing because he really did change the path of my career. So I'm going to read his bio, and I see John's up on the screen. John, it's so great to see your face again. Dr. John Joyce received his Doctor of Dental Medicine degree from the University of Pennsylvania and a certificate in periodontal prosthodontics with an MSD degree from the University of Washington. He maintains private practice which is limited to prosthodontics in Tacoma and Seattle. He's an affiliate professor in the graduate restorative program at UW. Dr. Joyce continues to lecture nationally and internationally, and everyone knows him as a reviewer for many journals and co-editor-in-chief of the Compendium of Continuing Education in Dentistry. He's also the recipient of the 2002 Saul Schluger Memorial Award for Clinical Excellence in Diagnosis and Treatment Planning, and he also received the Lifetime Achievement Award from the World Congress of Minimally Invasive Dentistry and the American Academy of Cosmetic Dentistry. He's also the recipient of the Thaddeus Weeklew Award, which he received in 2014, and that's given to a dedicated educator who embodies the spirit of comprehensive dental care. And he's also the past president of the American Academy of Restorative Dentistry, the American Academy of Aesthetic Dentistry, and a member of so many other professional organizations. But I am absolutely honored to bring on the man who founded the Joyce Center, and honored to bring on John Joyce, the man that changed my perception of what excellence is. So, John, it is so great to have you. Oh, we don't have sound. So obviously having a few more challenges tonight. Hang on one second, John. We'll get you going in just a minute. I'll have Chad do that. So why don't we do this? While we're waiting for Dr. Joyce, Jennifer, any news that we can talk about?
Of course. There's always news. We'll keep it simple for the first one. I just think as a follow-up to having Paul Gozar on our, do we need to check? Sound check?
Yeah, hang on one second. John, just take your time, and Jennifer's going to do some news while you're getting the sound worked out there, okay? Jennifer, go ahead.
So as a follow-up to Paul Gozar being on just a few weeks ago, it was interesting to note that the House did pass a repeal on the McCarran-Ferguson Act. So I think we're going to continue to watch that pretty closely. There's still pending legislation in the Senate. And as Representative Gozar was really kind to note, this is a very complicated process in how they get things passed between the House and the Senate, and it goes through various evolutions. So I think we're going to continue to watch to see if the Senate passes the same. It was a bipartisan supported bill, so it does have support from both parties. So hopefully there's some momentum once again for this particular legislation.
Well, I sure hope that we can see that go through, because it's something that's so needed. I see you guys smiling. Are we getting sound?
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
No.
I can hear you, John.
Perfect.
You sound great. Welcome, and look at this crew that I have around me here.
Oh, it's a delight. It's a delight. And let me start off by saying how much I appreciate the kind words, your introduction. I feel like I'm talking to family here. It's a much higher level than the way you described it at the tribe, and it really was so nice of you to say that, and so kind, and I appreciate all of you for doing this. I really do.
Well, John, you know that we all really mean it when we say you have touched every one of our lives and every one of our careers, and we all practice a higher level of dentistry because of what you've taught us. And so, you know, if you have nothing else in life, I think that's an incredible thing to go to sleep with, is knowing the impact that you've had on so many clinicians.
No, and I really appreciate those comments, and it's the reason why I wanted to do this with you, because I know how much it really does mean to you and me, and how genuine all of you are. So this is just a delight. I'm just enjoying this already. It's quite a different format for me, so I'm trying to settle in and get a little used to it.
Well, as you can see, we still have not fully acclimated to it after 14 episodes. So,
Well,
you know,
I get it. We take what we do seriously, but we don't take ourselves so seriously.
Exactly. And that's kind of what I like about this format, because as you well know, you are way better about time and having all the details worked out well ahead of time than you have ever known me to have. So.
Well, you know, Jeff, one of my favorite comments I always talk about is I'm only spontaneous when it's planned. And this is quite out of character for me because it's very spontaneous.
Yes. Well, I'm telling you that one thing that we've noticed about doing this show is just how much everybody appreciates the candor, the humility. You know, we tell our good stories, we tell our bad stories, but really we're just trying to inform people about what's going on in dentistry and about some of the amazing resources that are out there, like the center.
No, I heard them in the beginning, and Jennifer, I hope your tray is going to be okay in the morning. So
I really hope so. It's a first. It took me if an ROI is 2.5 hours to design a custom tray, well, we're right on our way to saving money.
I know the feeling.
Yeah.
Systems. And Johnny, I know you heard that I walked into a flap that had been prepared for me on Tuesday morning.
Yeah, I heard that too. What a shame.
Yeah. I mean, the bone, I had someone come in and draw blood and the PRF I mean, just to think that somebody is willing to just say, I didn't like the stitches. These stories, they make us all human because we all have stories like that, right?
Absolutely.
And nothing like that happens at the Coy Center, though, does it? Or at your practice? Never.
It's always something. It's always something.
Yeah, exactly. So John, let me ask you a little bit, because I think, a lot of our audience are newer dentists and they're younger. They may not be as familiar with the center and with your early career as we would be as mature, not older dentists, as mature dentists. But I thought maybe we would just ask you a little bit about your early education and about the center. So one of my first questions is when you were in dental school, did you ever think that someday you'd be the world-renowned John Coyce? In other words, did you know that you were really destined to make a change in the profession, or did something happen later along the journey that kind of put you on that path?
Well, there was no way I thought about where I am today in those early years. So I never had those thoughts. So that's for sure.
Yeah.
But things did happen after graduate school. And, my idea of the center, the inspiration was to create a graduate program for practicing dentists and build a curriculum around that. And so that was my intent. And one of the things that I've tried to do here at the center is build the center around being a game changer, not an expert regurgitator. We're not trying to just rehash material that people have heard of before. We're trying to push the envelope so we can all move further along. And that seems to be getting harder than it's ever been before, but that's always the goal of the center.
Yeah. And so you went in after you did your perio-pros residency, you went into practice was it Fife was the first practice?
Yes, I was actually in the Air Force after my residency and designed a teaching program for them. And
Ah,
then when I came out of that, I decided I wanted to expand it in the private practice sector.
okay.
That was the
And
idea.
so you actually started, did it start out as the Coy Center, or it was just a study club to begin with, wasn't it?
No, it was just as you remember. You have a good memory, Jeff. It was a study club and then another study club. And for a while, I had 13 study clubs.
Oh
And
gosh.
it was repeating myself quite a few times in a very inefficient way. And the center became a way to harness a more efficient way of delivering the content.
Well, so I guess at what point did you know that this could work on a bigger scale? Because, for those who have never been to the center, it's really it's an unbelievable facility. Every last detail has been thought of in from everything from the microphones on every desk to the name tags, to just every detail is so thought out. So I guess what my question is when did you know that it could work on this larger scale?
Well, it's kind of like how you feel in practice. No matter how good a day you have in practice, you always wonder, am I going to have another one of those? There's always insecurities that are built in for what we're doing. And no matter how hard we work, at the end of the year, you wonder, are you going to be able to do that again the following year? And I've always just really focused on what I do locally, not really realizing what was happening globally. And it was a slow process. I've been at this for over 25 years, and a lot of lectures all over the world, and people started to come. And I can't say I envisioned any of it, certainly to the level that it is today, and I'm very grateful. But it's people like yourselves that really help make the center what it is today, because I feed off the energy of folks like yourselves that have now driven the center to another level. So it's that interaction that I think made the biggest difference of all.
So where did you see some of the biggest voids in education when you started this? Where did you see the shortcomings in how we were educating our existing clinicians and how we were trying to make them
Yeah,
better?
I think it's the typical things. We tend to treat symptoms, not the cause. And a simple one is caries is the disease of the person, not the tooth. The tooth has the result of the disease. And those little things just expanded into every aspect of the teaching center. It's the lifeblood of what the teaching center is about. And every course has many things that we tried to develop. And I think the other piece that added a lot to the center was the research arm that helped to contribute a lot more of the content that's always been original. And I think that has a lot to do with the growth.
Yeah.
Well,
And
and I think that's if I may expound
no,
on
no,
that, I think
please,
that's a
please do, Jennifer.
valuable part, because one of the things that I learned very quickly was how to be a discriminating consumer of continuing education. That I could get up, as a person behind a microphone, you're given a certain platitude and you become an authoritative figure just because the microphone's in front of you. But that doesn't actually mean that the things that you're saying has been founded in science and research. And so, I applaud the center for that research arm, because I think it made many of us who attended there become much more discriminating when we consumed education, and to make sure that the things that we're now applying in our practice was actually based on sound evidence, and not just because someone said it behind a microphone one time, so therefore it must be true.
I appreciate that, Jennifer, a lot. And I always thought after a while it would get easier. But, there's an article published every 23 minutes. And I read 28 journals a month, trying to consolidate content to now put it into the courses. And, the way that information is traveling at the speed of thought, we're just bursting at the seams.
Mm-hmm.
We're all trying to keep up, and we're we feel like half the time just treading water is almost what we get to do.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
How
Well,
is-
welcome back, Chad. I'm glad you came into the conversation a little bit.
Hey, I was watching, I was listening, and Dr. Coyce, I certainly appreciate you being here, and I'm glad that we got you fixed up. But
Chad, you were waiting till all the technology just got settled out before you can make your entrance.
Yeah.
I was trying to do so, but I'm just listening. Jennifer said a word a few minutes ago. I mean, I'm from Texas. I never heard it before. Platitude. That's pretty
He's
impressive.
making it up.
I didn't know it. A young lady from North Carolina could even use verbiage such as that. But that was quite impressive there, Jennifer. I'm blown away. But
Well, she's
I
from the
love
smart Carolina, Chad.
yeah, for sure. Well, we knew that to begin with. But carry on, keep asking questions because I do have a comment. But it's after you guys were headed in that direction. So keep going.
All right. Well, I do have something else that I want to ask, because I think another thing that I think a lot of maybe the younger dentists that are on here, risk assessment has really become a buzzword. But I'm going to tell every one of you out there that I never really understood risk assessment in dentistry until I went out to the center. And so it's really John that brought this concept of risk assessment and risk management to the forefront of clinical dentistry. I guess what I want to know is, John, everyone accepts that message now. What was it like trying to get that message across in the early days of the center? This whole thing of managing risk versus treating disease.
Well, I have to tell you, from even the very beginning, people that were coming to the center, like what you were really gobbling that up. It didn't seem like it was that difficult a concept. And we just kept building it and building it. And I'll tell you why, because it strikes an emotional chord with us. As I tell people, the dentists that come to the center have a lot of pride, and they want to be proud of what they've done. And they see their patients in the grocery store and they want to be proud. Mm-hmm. And so, we all feel really badly when somebody brings one of your crowns back in a little baggie and they shake it for you and say, "Here's your crown back, doc." And, it's a stab in the heart. It's like,
yeah,
what did I potentially do wrong? Or what part of me is the problem? And, we're the type of dentist that we take it personal. And, when something goes wrong, even though it's what we do, but it then becomes something wrong with us. And it's a really tough thing to start to sort out in your brain. And risk assessment and the management piece is actually in the behind the scenes. It's to have peace of mind. It's to understand what the liabilities and limitations are of anything that we do, because I think our training didn't really prepare us for failure very well.
No, it didn't.
That's what the risk assessment model did.
Yeah. And what I'll say too is it's really what most dentists don't realize before they come to the center is that we're not just reducing risk for the patient, we're reducing risk for ourselves. We're
absolutely,
it's, those schedule busters. It's, just what you said, having one less of those patients that comes in with the baggie that you talked about, that changes your whole schedule for the day. So, and something else that I walked away with from the very first course that I took there, doing treatment planning 1, I came home from that 3-day lecture, and I started doing something very differently in my initial exams. And after I would sit down and introduce myself, and I'd ask the patients what their concerns were, if they had any specific questions. And of course, everybody apologizes for their condition and, gives you the whole story. And I say, well, listen, I want to tell you something, that everybody walks in here with some problem. And I said, it doesn't matter to me so much what your problem is. I want to know how it got that way. And you taught us that. I mean, honestly, when patients hear that, it's like all of a sudden my treatment case acceptance skyrocketed just from making that one statement, that I don't really care as much about what the problem is as why it happened in the first place. Because if I can get to understand that, I can prevent it from happening again. And all of a sudden you can watch these patients just breathe a sigh of relief that they've found the right office. And you know, I mean, how do you say thank you for that?
You
But
just did. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
it's absolutely been gigantic to me. So, couple more questions because I know we're starting to run short on time. Tell us about how COVID-19 affected. I know everyone's sick of talking about this, but you know, in such a big operation and so many people coming every month, what were some of the pains you felt during COVID-19?
Well, first of all, when COVID happened, the center went to zero. I mean, there was no one here at the center, and you know, we're just now getting back on our feet and, you know, working through it. You know, people in practice seem to be even busier than we are in teaching because it's hard to bring people back live. But we've actually done some pretty incredible things. All those desks, you remember, we have dividers in between and people have personal spaces, and the reception so far has been just incredible. We're just thrilled about how people are excited about coming back to education and do the things that the center has been so proud of. So we're really excited about that. But when COVID first hit, the big thing that we did is we formed a task force here at the center. And early on, we did a free webinar to everyone. And so far, we've had our forms downloaded more than 130,000 times. You know, in the early response, trying to figure out what to do to get back to practice was a bit daunting. And now it's becoming a usual day-to-day occurrence now. It's not such a fearful piece. So we've learned quite a bit from those experiences. And I think, you know, we're all better for it. It hasn't been pleasant, but we're working our way back. And you know, we're still in this for a while, so we need to make sure we make it work.
Well, I can say just following Koi Center on Instagram and watching people showing their airline tickets, they're ready to come back, their wonderful stories that they're in the center. I mean, there's just this like coming home sensation that's happening for them. And honestly, COVID-19 is probably going to make that so much more important, that fellowship and that opportunity to be in a space together. We didn't take it for granted, but I don't think we knew it could be taken away. And now
Absolutely.
having that opportunity, I was chatting with some of the folks who graduated with me last night about this interview, and you know, we miss one another and we miss those table side chats and kind of connecting and talking about successes and failures and having those opportunities that happened at the center. And we're looking forward to that opportunity coming again. So I think you're going to play a pivotal role in the recovery, if for nothing else, the psychological recovery of dentists getting back to doing what they do every day.
Well, I appreciate that. You know what also has hurt us, since we are such a global audience, global group that comes to the center, all the borders are shut down. So we have no one now from outside the United States, which is a big part of the center as well. And it's going to take time before we get that back. But, you know, I am getting the emails of people yearning for that, for, you know, we're in skin hunger, you know, just to say hi to people and not just be through a camera. That there's something different about that, and to be with people like all of you, how nicely you all know each other and get along. Can you imagine when you're together? It's even that much more dramatic.
And we will be together this weekend. We're only going to miss you, John.
Yeah.
Too bad.
So
I have a course.
Yeah. So one of the things, and then Chad, I'll let you wrap up with the last question because I know John probably needs to go. But one thing I'll say is some of the friends that I've made from around the world that I still keep in touch with every day from England, from Ireland, from Hong Kong, from Australia, and you know, the center really has made not just the world of dentistry, but the world in general a smaller place. And so many great friendships have come out of the center. And you know, even when you're not teaching, we're still talking. We're still throwing stuff, you know, at each other and picking each other's brains. And it might not be your brain right now, John, but you know, we're all picking at each other to get what we can get, and so that's what you built, and I want to say thank you for that. And my last question for you is where do you
want to make one comment on that,
Sure.
Jeff? You know, the one thing that I think has been really helpful, because you've heard me say none of us are smarter than all of us, and by building a language and a community, it's helped all of us grow faster. And the growth has been exponential. Once you build the baseline, it doesn't take that much discussion now to keep furthering everybody's relationship, not just relationship, but abilities go so much faster. It's amazing to me. It's just amazing.
It really is. And so I guess my last question for you, John, is, you know, as someone who developed, you know, one of the premier postgraduate programs out there, where do you see the future of dental CE? Do you, you know, what trends do you see right now, and you know, where do you think the next big step is in education?
You know, we're all trying to figure out the future, and unfortunately, figuring out the future, we have to rely on what's happened in the past, and the technology is changing so quickly that's getting harder to do. But I can tell you, we're already building our virtual education platform, which is to be an enhancement of what we're already doing. We can't fit all the content live anyway. And so we're just extending our faculty system, our network system, and our educational reach by being able to do some of the virtual options. But what we're doing is being very careful about what options do better virtually versus some things just need a hands-on exposure for motivation.
Yeah.
And so we're trying to figure out the best blend. And during the COVID crisis, I spent a fair amount of time getting deeper in education and what's happening, you know, with kids learning online versus live teacher interaction, and trying to use those experiences to shape our newer material. And so we're working on that. You know, I've been in dentistry long enough to see my own products become obsolete. So we have to keep changing, because if you just rely on what you've done in the past, you don't have a future.
Yeah, agreed. Well, John, I'm going to say thank you and toss it up to these guys because I know you need to get going. And if Chad or Jennifer, you have any other questions for John? Go ahead, Chad. I know you have something good to say.
No, I just wanted to say this, and John, thank you so much for being here. Dr. Coyce, I'm sorry.
John is my preferred name.
He's yelled at me so many times for saying.
I obviously have the utmost respect, unfortunately, for these two over here, and I saw you speak last year at Seattle Study Club Symposium. But one of the things that I think we leave dental school as is I think that we leave dental school as really good tooth mechanics. And I think that we misunderstand our role as oral physicians. And I think that you have certainly created a lot of oral physicians and done a great job of explaining that and expressing that and teaching that. I'm sitting here watching the comments, and as we close, I just want to share with you the love that has been pouring out tonight for you. You've been called the king of dentistry, the best. Thank you so much for what you do. Someone says, I won't say who, but she says you look younger. You must have gotten some rest during COVID. You just got some amazing comments. The outpouring of love has been fantastic. And there have been some really big names in dentistry that you have done a lot to mold and shape their careers. So thank you. And I will be up there to see you shortly and drink the Kool-Aid. So thank you very much.
Thanks. I really appreciate it. And you know, those comments are because it's all from wonderful people. And you know, it still comes down to being all about the people. And there's, you know, trying to educate the mind without educating the heart is no education at all. And that's not my quote, but that's another famous quote. But I think it just resonates with me a lot. And the people that come here certainly have a lot of heart, and they work really hard at making big contributions, as you guys have, or you wouldn't be doing this. So it's a pretty cool thing. I really appreciate
John,
it.
have a great night. Thanks for being with us. We really appreciate it. And I know everyone out there really appreciates it.
It was my pleasure, and I had fun.
Okay, great. We got it worked out.
Okay, guys.
Good night.
Good night. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Good night. Thank you.
Hey,
I miss them so
I
much.
was trying to figure out how to juggle, but Joyce wanted to say bye to Dr. Coyce, and I didn't want to delete myself. I didn't want to delete Jennifer. I didn't want to delete Jeff. So Dr. Coyce, you know, he loves you, Joyce. He really does.
It was
So
to watch. You guys did such a good job.
Thank you.
Oh,
thank you.
Thank you, Joyce.
Thank you. Thank you.
So,
thank you.
And listen to this. So JB,
Yeah.
wow, if it were anyone else coming up, I'd say there's no one who could follow John Coyce, but we still have some news to get to. And I think you're up to the task.
I can't wait for all the comments to start pouring in about being king and stuff. It's gonna be great.
So
I'm gonna let JB take it away with the news.
Yeah, John Coyce was my lead-in, right?
Yeah. Now that we've warmed the audience up, let's get going.
Go to it, JB.
We're going to take it down to a very sad and depressing notch when we talk about the news. Just as a follow-up to what I said before Coyce came in, we were talking about the fact that the House did pass the repeal on the McCarran-Ferguson, so we're going to continue to watch that. Hopefully the Senate will do the same, and that would really position it well to maybe actually move forward and get passed for the 400th time that it's now been introduced.
Right.
So we'll continue to watch that. I posted earlier this week, and there was a bit of conversation about the FDA's response or commentary on amalgams and what the future will hold for that material in dentistry. There's a lot of buzz going on right now. All the organized groups are looking at how they're going to respond, if they're going to respond. Certainly the American Pediatric Dental Association, the ADA, the AGD are all forming task groups to take a peek at this. I think they really want to dive into the science and evidence that the FDA is referring to so that they can make an educated response. If the science has changed, if there's more information we need to be aware of, then I think all these groups are going to go back and review that. I don't think any of them are equipped to make a response quite yet.
I don't blame them.
I don't either. An interesting thing that no one has talked about was that same response also included an implant response. And so I think it will be interesting to see. The overarching FDA response was about metals, and so that included both dental amalgam and also titanium. It wasn't just unique to the dental world, but it was a response to titanium. So I think it will be something we also need to watch to see if there's going to be scientific evidence or something that may change about our perception of titanium dental implants. So that's something that didn't get much press this week, but also
No, it didn't.
No, but that was also included in the language that came out. So we'll be watching for both of those things.
Awesome.
What you got there, Jeff?
You're waiting for it, Jeff.
I mean, it's so loud.
A little shug. Yeah, a little Pinot
Hey,
Noir.
sugar.
Was that loud?
Oh, nice. Well, light.
It was loud. It was loud. Yeah.
Is your mic on that side?
No, my mic is on the other side.
So JB, I got a question for you. And you know, I was going to ask you this outside of this, but I figured what's a better platform? What did we ever decide? I say we, like I looked into this, but I just rely on your answers. What did you ever decide on the HHS loan? I still have not accepted it. It's in my account, but it's just hovering. Are we accepting or not?
I think we're going to accept it. I think actually it's going to be easier money to forgive than the PPP.
So it's funny. I just I actually have until like November the 12th or something like that. But we had 90 days, correct?
Correct. I think that's a great follow-up response. I can't impart my view on others, but I think from everything that I read on that, there's two things I would say. Number one, be prepared to pay taxes on that money. I would at least marginalize out whatever your normal percentage rate is. Go ahead and kind of pocket that over to the side, because there's been zero language about forgiveness on that as far as tax liability. But on the flip side, I think as long as you can show a year-over-year loss from 2019 to 2020, an increased cost in infection control and PPP expenses and engineering controls that you've put into your office, and anything else that you've had to do in response or related to COVID-19, if it's more than the amount that was given to you, you'll be able to get that forgiven as a grant.
Okay.
So I think PPP is going to be a little bit trickier. And to your point on that, there's still a lot of uncertainty kind of wrapped around that. I don't think at this point we'll see any language on the PPP till after the election. I just don't think that's a priority right now for either the House or the Senate to pick up. I don't think anybody wants to fall on the sword right now to take a stand.
No, you're not going to hear anything.
So we're prepared. I would say proactively prepare that you will owe, that you will have to be able to justify the forgiveness portion of the loan, that you may have tax burden associated with that. And fingers crossed that the government will make some modifications to that will currently the benchmark somewhere around 150,000. So if you got 150,000 or less, that's the number that they're looking at for complete forgiveness, no interest to bear. And then there's the second piece of that, whether there'll be tax liability on that money. Because if you paid for payroll and rent and other things, if you claim it within PPP, you can't go and then put it on your taxes as a deductible expense, which would increase your tax burden overall. So still a lot of nuances within this plan. It was rushed to put out there to try to save small businesses in particular. So there's still so much that has to be figured out about the details. Devil's in the details, boys.
There always is.
Thank God for accountants, right?
Right.
They have earned their keep this year. They have been working very hard to try to stay abreast. And as our accountant has said multiple times, it's like standing on quicksand. It's just constantly moving and you don't exactly know where to go next.
Well, yes. Jennifer, thank you as always for sorting that out for us. Yeah, for us simpler minds on on these issues. So yeah, exactly. But anyway, we're getting ready to close it out here, Chad. And I think what I want to tell everybody out there is that the three people you see on the screen are so appreciative of all of you tuning in and watching and being a part of DINKs. And the three of us are going to be getting together this weekend. And we're going to be talking about how we can improve this platform and and how we can bring it to a whole new level and hopefully work out some of our AV snafus. But Chad, as always, thank you for feverishly working in the background to make it work, because it was just impressive, buddy. And thank you. But I'm really looking forward to being with the two of you this weekend and just coming up with some great things for us to put out to the audience. So with that, I think we ought to close it out. Chad?
Hey, another week in the books, possibly one of the best yet. So it was awesome having cheers.
Cheers
having
to all of you.
Yeah. Appreciate everybody watching. Appreciate everybody. And until next week, we'll see you then. Peace out.
Have a good one. Take care.
Bye.
Peace out.